Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to our inward journey and more talk about a word for Wednesday, which is expansion. So expansion, if you think about the word itself, it gives you this feeling of kind of getting bigger, right? And generally that energy comes from the inside. So if you think about a balloon and how a balloon expands, there's air on the inside and it's pushing outward and it's causing this balloon to get larger and bigger and to expand. I like to think of that as the analogy, whereas when you talk about contracting, that kind of feels like a force is coming from the outside and pushing, like if you have a trash compactor, it's more contracting, it's making it smaller and more withdrawn by a force on the outside. So when you're working on your spiritual life and we talk about expanding, there's a word that comes to mind that is really important to bring into this notion of expanding, and that's the word allowing. So, we need to be open. We need to be willing to allow for what is. So I think a lot about that in terms of childbirth. I've done some coaching for moms who are in the process of laboring and giving birth to a child, and they have contractions, right? So when something painful or uncomfortable happens to you, you tend to contract, you tend to withdraw and pull inward and kind of shrink down away from the pain or away from the challenge. And as I'm coaching on a childbirth, often I'm working on helping the mom realize what is happening inside of her and to open to this new possibility, this new birth coming forth from her body. And in our spiritual lives, it's very similar. We go through life, first of all, we come into this world and we're pretty open. Everything is new and we're curious and we're looking and bringing in through all of our senses this excitement and this enthusiasm about being open to something that's new and different, maybe something that we haven't experienced before. But then we go through challenges and we get hurt and we start to contract. We start getting layers and layers of pressure on us that causes us to contract. And the challenge is that when we're in that contracted position, energy isn't flowing through us. It's not coming from that inside powerful source, that inner guru that we have, and going out into the world in the form of our life purpose or our calling. We're covering that up with our fears and our insecurities, and we're contracting, we're pulling inward. So that's really hard to do, right? When something is painful, it's very hard to stay open and to allow that sensation to come through us and to expand into other possibilities. It's one of the things that we learn a lot during a Vipassana meditation is we're taught the word Vipassana means as it is, which is to allow things to be as they are. So in the course of these meditations, we're often just sitting and allowing our thoughts to come through and allowing the different sensations to arise. Because what happens in life is we go through all this contracting and it just tightens and contracts and tightens. The Buddhists call this tying knots. We just get tighter and more contracted as life creates challenges for us. But so if you think about that analogy of a piece of twine sort of just being twisted or contracted and continually being twisted to the point where it just curls around and it's all knotted up. The thing that's really interesting about that, if you want to untie those knots in that piece of twine that you've got, all you need to do is let go of the ends. And what happens when you let go of those ends? When you let go, it unwinds itself. So we're in a natural state of wanting to be allowing, of wanting to be open and wanting to expand. The key is we need to let go. We need to allow instead of contracting, instead of having that fear that pulls us inward and gets in the way of our allowing our life purpose and allowing our energy to flow through us. We need to learn to be more open and be conscious of the times when we are contracting. So it's interesting when you start witnessing your own life and you start watching the things that cause you to contract. And for me, it's really noticeable in my body. So if I'm really uptight or stressed out, what I notice is that my shoulders are up here by my ears. They get way up here, and I notice and I think to myself, wow, just open and stretch and allow. It's okay. It's taking that big, deep breath that allows you to just settle and be in a better position for allowing. I also notice my hands, right? My hands will be all tensed and clenched in fists. And sometimes it's just an effort kind of to notice and just allow and open up those hands and breathe through and shake them out. And the other place I notice it is in my jaw. So if I'm really clenching, really noticing that I'm tight in my jaw or in my face, it's a great opportunity to bring awareness to that part of your body. Take a big, deep cleansing breath and just open and allow. And once you do that, the energy is able to flow up and down through your chakras and out your aura and out your body. And you can just be so much more present and so much more willing and vulnerable and open to all of life's experiences. So our job here when we come into this world as a human being is kind of to allow and let go of all of those pressures and stresses that we have going on in our lives, to open to other possibilities and to try to kind of what I call getting out of our own way, to just allow for what is and not push so hard to make things happen, not to contract. And that is more of that effort. It's that effortless pushing that we do to try to push something in or to push our agenda. And then once we start getting more advanced along the spiritual path, words like allow and resonate start to show up in our lives and in our vocabulary. And we find ourselves in a position of just letting life happen through us, letting the energy flow through us. And that results in expansion, being bigger in the world, coming out as who we really are in a bigger, more expanded way in the world. And that's what expansion is all about. So think about that the next time you catch yourself clenching your fists or gritting your teeth or holding your breath, and try letting that go and see how that makes you feel. One of the ways that I do that is I will literally set an alarm on my phone every hour to just vibrate or beep or do something to remind me to just stop and be for just a minute. Just give yourself a chance to come back to the now, to open up to the next possibility that might happen in your life, and to expand outwardly and not be quite so fearful, not be quite so contracted. So hopefully that will have a new meaning for you in your vocabulary, to be thinking about expansion, being big in the world, bringing ourselves out into the world in a bigger, more expanded, more allowing and more open way. So that's our word for today, expansion. See if you can't bring that into your life a little bit more every single day. Have a wonderful day and namaste.